All right. Good morning, good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock on the East Coast. It's 10 a.m. here in Vegas. My name is Justin Scanson. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Just Play Solutions. And today we are talking about lacrosse scouting reports and doing all of the hard work while I sit here and listen. Our Director of Lacrosse, Matt Kimsey. Matt, how's it going?
Hey, everybody. Excited to talk some scouting reports today.
All right. So scouting reports is something that is near and dear to my heart as a former Division I basketball assistant coach. Having a number of different scouting reports be opponents really be my responsibility. And before having any kind of automated system to make life easier. So Matt, let's talk about scouting reports and how Just Play can make coaches' lives easier, save time, and better prepare their players. And looks like Matt has shared his screen. If you guys have questions, please drop those in the chat. I will be watching for those. All right. Matt, where would you like to get started today?
All right. I think we're just going to go. So kind of the plan for this is kind of a general overview, kind of recap of how to create and the automation process and where that's coming from, utilizing templates. And then we'll talk specifically about some minor details and some changes within the scouting reports. And really just, coaches, I got a few in here, but Q&A, like if you've got specific questions, please hit Justin up so we can talk about it for sure. But this is definitely for you to better your understanding of these and then, simplify your process in creating them. So with that said, we will get rolling here. You're all familiar with the scouts, but we definitely build all of our scouts on scout templates. My recommendation for all coaches at the start of the season is to build and really build out and develop their first scout for their opponent and get everything set the way they want, and then create a scout template from that existing scouting report. So I'll show you that as well. But let's go ahead and walk through the automation piece. Let's select our opponent here today. Let's go ahead and go with DU. Select your game date. Select the template that you like to use. And I really don't mess with this right away. I schedule content. You can assign to users later. So just hit add. And this will bring in your opponent and bring in the statistics for them. So you'll see this is moving through here. Okay, so first screen we're going to see, this is going to be a recap breakdown for actually 2021. And you'll notice we've got a few different views set up. You can see the year of this by the edit view. There we go. And notice 2021. If I go, so some coaches, obviously we're getting rolling for 2022. And when we go 2022, you will recognize that there will be no stats there for these because we don't have any stats for 2022. So at the start of the season, it's going to be really important to just, select that 2021 view for these. I'll take a snapshot of your opponent. Obviously, this is a 2022 roster, and get a snapshot of where they're at the start of the season from last year. What you're looking at here is different. Go ahead, Justin.
Matt, when the season starts, what do most coaches or what do you suggest for how much are we going to be using last year's stats before we're really ready to make a judgment about what this team is? So maybe two or three games. Is that really where you see a lot of our coaches in their preparation on what they're looking at?
Yeah, I think it ultimately, when you feel like you got a big enough body of work in the current season to get an idea of who that opponent is, then you can, switch to that 2022 view. In addition, I'll show you in personnel when we jump there, you can add stat splits for multiple years so that you can get a view of last year plus this year. So these views specifically, you can see we can edit these views. Obviously, they're custom. So again, build a scout, start working on what views you want to see. I could add specific pieces to this. If I wanted to, shots on goal, etc., and hit add, and it'll pull these views in, these stats for you. So circling up there, let's go. I gotta love the at-home internet. But then adding the shot on goal total as well. And
feel it coming. Here we go.
All right.
There we are.
There we go. All right, good to go. So that's how you edit those views. Let's jump to this matchup snapshot here. You'll see we're in as Northwestern currently. Notice we have no stats, but again, 2022 is where we're at. Hit update to go to 2021. Excuse me. And this is where you can get kind of a side-by-side comparison with your opponent. Where do you rank in the percentile across the country? How do your stats match up? Talking on this a little bit, this may be a view. This is an internal coach view. You may not want to show this view to your players, right? If you feel like you're up against a much better opponent, you might not want to push this to your players and say, whoa, we have no chance. But some of this stuff internally, these stats, these views, these bar graphs, et cetera, are going to be for you as a coaching staff. Where can you glean some information and maybe better approach prepping for your opponent? Let's jump now to personnel. I'm gonna drink here.
So as Matt's getting a drink and as personnel loaded, going back to the question I had earlier about starting your season and using 2021 stats, Matt's going to have an opportunity here to show us how to add a line of stats that includes last year's stats and this year's. And that's something that I think is important when you're at, 1, 2, 3 games until you really have a feel for who that team is. And a lot of that depends on, how is the roster this year compared to last year? Did they lose a bunch of seniors? Do they have a bunch of freshmen who are starting to contribute right away? And that's as long as I can stall for you, Matt.
Oh, you're good. We're good. We're going to talk here. There's 2 ways to bring in personnel: automate personnel and search personnel. Automate personnel will bring in that entire roster, let you select a stat profile for that roster, and then build those skills lists. You can also search personnel, which I would recommend here because you'll be able to assign a custom stat profile for each position you bring in. And so, you may not need 50 players on your scouting report, but you may want to bring in, these 3 midfielders, say, and we may want to assign them, a specific stat profile. All right. So you can bring these in. We'll go ahead and use positional for this one here and hit this button here to bring them in. All right, you'll see we've got the team summary stat profile here. So we got a lot of stats in here. It's bringing everything in. So what I'll go ahead and do is go run. We're going to use a positional stat profile. We're going to go 2021. I'll run that stat update. And we still have the same setup here. It's going swimmingly.
So this is also how you would, when you're adding these players, leave out last year's seniors, and make sure that you have the
Let's
most
talk,
up to date.
while we're here, this is a good opportunity to jump in and talk about stat profiles as well. So let's go scout templates. Scout templates, you're going to be able to find your stat profiles and all your print settings specific to your scouting reports. Let's jump in and take a look at what's going on with stat profiles. And this is all over the place. So that's what's going on here. So these are specific stat profiles. They're going to be allowed to be updated. Defensive statistics. Notice the positions here. If we update on position, those would be the positions we bring in. And then personnel stats. I think we'll end up using this one so I can know.
So, Matt, is this something that you can help these coaches do with their scout templates? I see in the upper right-hand corner, we have add new, where it would just be pretty simple to add a title, the positions, and then pick the stats that are important to each team and each coaching staff.
Yeah, you can build your own custom stat profiles. Most of the accounts for the coaches I think are that we have on right now, kind of a base default is set up with midfield, attack, defenders, etc. Those stat profiles. This is, the demo account, so it's got a lot of different things all over, but you'll notice attack midfield there. We can use this one. So we'll go back in, we'll use personnel stats. And we'll go back into this scout. And we'll go back into personnel. And I'm going to run this stat update now, knowing, we want to use personnel stats for 2021. Some options here when you run the stat update. Skills lists are going to be automated based on your template. These are going to be automated lists. You can automate a depth chart. This is a function of games played, games started. It's not fully thorough, I wouldn't say, but it can bring some of the players that play the most up to the top of the scout. And then keep an option on the sync option. Keep an eye on the sync options. Remove previous statistics. Yes, we will. I won't replace those, and we'll hit the run stat update. So now you'll notice when we hit that personnel, that appropriate stat profile for players, we bring in the smaller stat profile, fits the page, and is custom to those players. So stat profiles are a big part of that. Again, that midfield position that was part of that personnel is this tag here. So that's bringing that in. Additionally, to add a split or add an additional, stat line for say 22, say current, we can go ahead and go into active here. There's options here, customize stats, and we'll go to add a split. So again, this will be really valuable as you get opponents that have, a couple games within the 2022 season. You want to show 2021 as well as 2022. Split name is always overall. We'll go ahead and leave selected, add this field to all players, and then we'll go 2022 and I'll hit add split. And so you'll see now we have an overall 2022 split added to each profile for the players there. So that's how you're going to add multiple splits for that. As far as organization with players, reordering players, moving players up and down, hit the reorder button, organize them the way you want. I'll finish them here. And additionally, each profile, we go in, this is where we're going to build out your details for the players. You got left column, right column. If you leave one of these columns blank, it'll be a one column view, but this is where we would put, player tendencies, maybe matchup keys here. I've seen some suggestions here would be, maybe we want to denote right, left, players' hands. So I've seen this quite a bit, or even matchups there as well. Big names. You can assign custom matchups here as well. And then your tabs here, you've got your statistics for the individual players. And you've got your videos there to add video from your video library, pulling in any video clips. Now we work with all video, MP4s, movie files. So adding those video clips to all the scouts, really easy to do. But that's where you're going to add those there.
All right, Matt, we have a question here about our stats, our teams. What happens if you add an opponent but don't see a roster, or a roster doesn't load? Are there teams that we don't have, and how would a coach go about requesting a check on those?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we have every program. I would say we should have every program, depending on when we import data. We're currently on our last round of data import for some rosters, and that's going to be dependent on roster websites and where we get the roster information. But if you run into a program that does not have a player there, definitely hit the blue button up here, the blue support button, and make sure we get somebody in support to see that, so we can get somebody on that. So that's really what I would say. Just use the support. But we kind of check this pretty often here.
We actually have someone on staff who this kind of data is her full-time gig. So, Coach, if you are running into anything there, hit the blue question mark. Give us as much detail as possible. Sometimes we're handcuffed by the sports information director at a school, and that information isn't available to us. But if it is, we should be able to get it. So, Coach, let us know if there's any other follow-ups to that question. All right, Matt. We've added some, we went in and we edited the profile here for Anna. We were able to add some columns. What else do we want to see out of our scouting report?
We're going to hit on these other tabs here located across the top. Depth chart and lists here. These are automated based on the players we pull in. And so you notice we don't have any draw control, but none of those players had draw control stats. So that's why they're not pulling in. I'm actually going to jump over to a built out scout right now so we can get a little bit more thorough look at this. This is one that's been built out previously. You'll also notice in our tabs up here, there's blue, tabs, and then there's grayed out tabs. This is going to reflect what's turned on currently in our print settings. And so we'll jump to a print view here in a little bit. But you'll notice in this print setting, we've got this set to must be deliverables. And you'll notice this cover was turned off. So if I go and update this, move the page breaks around, etc., and go back in, you'll see that those are blued. So it's just a tag there for you to know, hey, these are active as far as print view. All right. So the tab specifically cover, this is going to be, logo, any kind of information you want to put on the cover. It's really custom to each program, but here's some examples. The keys section. This is where we can add the meat and potatoes of the scout, if you will. Different views, different defense, offense, transition views. New feature on this, which I think is pretty cool, is the customization piece to adjust the layout. If you hit adjust layout, you'll see these listed and say, I want the Rutgers offense to mirror Rutgers defense in a 2-column view. Well, we can do that by adjusting these now. And I can drag, a view up there. So I get kind of an offense defensive view and hit finish. So you can adjust that, add sections. Notice these things, these key sections can go throughout your scouting report. So just keep an eye on that. And then we hit the depth and list depth chart. All right, creating a depth chart, pulling players from the list. All right, and then these are the automated skills list. You can also add a list, a customized list for any number of things, assignments, right, left hand charts, anything else there that you want. And then the automate list, if you want to add additional, you can use this tool to create an automated list as well. All right, so personnel reports, let's hit on this. You can add any number of reports here, overall team comparison. If you hit the plus button, you'll see team stats, team leaders, team summary. These reports you can select. Again, it's always overall, and you can pull these in to add to the scouting report. The plays section, and I think this is really important. I think putting plays to players and animating diagrams for players in the scout is really important for not only your starters, but also your secondary players, your 2s and 3s that need to emulate what an opponent's running. So being able to put these in, push these to players, really important. You'll notice if I add an item here, you can see I've got 3 options: insert, copy, and create new. This is going to be the same in presentations as well, but just to note, insert will be pulling something in from your master playbook. Any changes you make to that play will affect the play throughout your system. Copy. So if you're building a play and you have an opponent and another scout that runs something similar, you can start from an existing scout report, copy it over, make changes. and then create a new play specific to this scouting report. So different options there for you to create those plays. And then
So real
lastly,
quick, Matt, I'm going to give you a break here for a second. If you want to go back to that screen, under play type, you can see that it's has a gray box that says master. That is where you would see copy if you selected a different version of that play. And when we do scouting reports, for the most part, I think that we do a copy just so if we have anything that's game specific, anything that's opponent specific, anything that you tweak for that week doesn't necessarily change in your master playbook and your philosophies and things like that. So just a point there. You can see we have master and we have version, two different options there under plays. All right, Matt, I think you were going to show the app.
Yeah, last tab here is this last video and files, any support files, additional PDFs, reports, and then videos overall. And so those are going to be all the tabs. This is built out. I'm going to go through two different views now. We'll click over to the player view. This is going to be on the player's app. And this is obviously what the players are going to see pushed to them. We've got the cover, all their keys, and the personnel below. We got players video, all your tabs up here. Now we've got a depth chart. We've got the skills lists here, specific plays where players can click in, animate the play with video. All right, so that's a big part of it. Again, push that content in front of players, get them prepared. And so this is going to be the player view. All right, customization of the player view is pretty limited. This is going to be what the players see. When we get a lot of customization options, that'll be in the print view. So I'm going to jump over here as well.
So real quick, Matt, can you go back to the app view? One thing, a couple notes here from my end. Teach your players how to read this. Teach them where everything is, where the plays are. Taking that time on your first scouting report to make sure that they get everything that they need is going to be hugely beneficial to you. Also, get these scouting reports to your players before you meet. I think that's one of the things that we've really seen helps coaches prepare is if the players get a good look at it, they've gone through it. Now when we meet on it, we can really dive in deep on what questions they might have, or very specific. We can dive into the specifics because they've already absorbed the first layer of information. All right, Matt, show us the printed versions.
All right, so again, jumping back here, print. You'll notice the template on the right side. These are the two print templates you had available in those print settings. So again, you can go and edit those, customize those, get those set the way you want them. And then all these other options now are going to be changes to this specific print. All right, so hitting edit will give you some options, removing a logo, changing image sizes, putting in page breaks. That you can lock this. You'll notice actually as I scroll down here, edit, you have a lot of options. You can, X out, cancel out a few of these. I can cut out the starters versus the bench as well. Different things here, customize some headers. So yeah, just familiarize yourself with the tools to edit these things to get them looking the way you want. Within each section here, you've got your cover. All right, section that we're going to be on. So now this is where you can, play with what you like here. Marquee matchup, different headings. I like that one. If you said maybe I don't want to show the logo, we want to get that cover look, the snapshot view, etc. there. And then, page breaks. You want to put a page break after the cover. I'm going to put a page break after the snapshot. You notice that page break comes in. And then we've got our keys section. So maybe we have a expanded opponent header up here, right? So this is where you kind of get your keys, and we got our skills list there. And so we put a break after there. Then we got our personnel, again, same thing. customize headers, get them looking the way you want. We've got a page break, I would assume, after personnel. There we go. And then we've got our depth chart, reports and plays. So,
and one of the things that I really like to express to coaches is to meet as a staff, really figure out what you want this to look like at the beginning of the season. And as you can see, there are a million different options to really find out what works best for you, what works best for your players. And you can always change it as you move forward. But I really think that putting in a little bit of time before the season to find out exactly, what you like, what style you like, what kind of organization is going to help you as you move into the season to create that scouting report quickly, easily, and deliver it to your team.
definitely. Once you get it all set up and you're hitting print and you're saving as a PDF or printing, obviously. So that's pretty straightforward, but a lot of options there. Again, I actually just sent out an email with 3 different scout templates to everybody. So if there's an interest to edit your scout template to one of those, let me know, because we can just pull a template and install it in your account, and you can use that moving forward as well. So just trying to provide you a few different options there on your scouting reports. And as I kind of wrap up and open for questions, you guys, everybody should know, feel free to reach out if you want to discuss scouting reports specifically to your program, because every single one is different. So hard to hit everything on every question, but hopefully kind of went through the basics and where you're pulling that information, where you can edit some of those print settings, stat profiles, and kind of where everything is housed in there. So I would definitely, Justin, unless you got anything else, I would open it up for questions if we got any specifically.
Yep. So if you guys have any questions, let's drop those in the chat. And just to review, from your Just Play system in the upper right-hand corner there, you have the blue question mark. That is the best place to get our attention. Matt will have his eye on that, but if he's busy, someone else will jump in, because we all know how busy things are and how quickly sometimes we need to move on these. Just to review from scouting reports, we jumped into scout templates. We created a new scout. We added different players. We were able to add different stat splits. And I'm sure you guys have done all these, but it's always good to get a refresher. We took a look at it in the app view. We took a look at it as a printed document. So with that, Matt, how do you find an opponent if they are not on the list? So is there, I guess.
We're talking about when we create a scouting report, I would assume.
Yes. Coach, would you mind just sharing what team we're looking for?
Yeah, let me try to replicate.
We can do it right now. Because I do know on the basketball side, some exhibitions, it depends on level and school where we may be missing. But all right, so when you are adding the scouting report in section 1,
let's see what we got. Oh, Frank,
Coach,
so
what
NAI there. I specifically to that question, Frank, NAI level, these should be done. Most, I should say most, they all should be inputted by the start of next week.
okay, so that was the last wave of data imports was the NAI. So if coach is an NAI school and he's playing a NCAA school, is he able to do that cross-level scouting report?
Yes, email me. I can adjust your settings so that you can select a Division II, Division III for the short term and be able to pull that in for you. So just email me so I can set it up for you. on that specifically. Um,
Perfect.
one thing I want to touch on real quick, because I did hit this. You see a couple different versions of this scout. The other thing is, creating these scout templates off of a fully built out scout that you like. If you find one that you like, you built it out, you're ready to go, create a scout template off of it. You'll be able to pull in everything, label it, say 2022 default template, etc., and create that template so you don't have to recreate those steps.
And that's the idea of putting in that time right now, early, having that staff meeting, maybe even bring in your captains. I mean, how does this look? Do you guys like this? And once you have it, create that template.
Yep.
All right.
The
If
other
you guys have any other questions, let's drop those in the chat. We're at the 30-minute mark, and Matt's voice has made it this far. Let's see if we can get another minute or two out of him. If you have any questions, let us have them.
Yeah, the last thing I'd say here, again, at the beginning of the scout, we were able to assign a date range and assign to users. You can always do that at any time prior to sending using this little share button, making sure it's active. The other thing was creating multiple scout versions, working with some programs, and you may have a player scout version template that you set up, and then you may have a specific game day scout card that has a list of play calls or prep pieces that you've done for the week for that opponent. So definitely utilize the templates to set up custom, custom setups, because you can easily, accomplish, a different style, for a different purpose. It doesn't have to be just one, scouting report. You could have a couple game day cards or, print version specific to player app version, etc. So just feel
Absolutely.
free.
That's one of the things that
Questions.
across sports, a lot of programs like to do a full coaches report where you get everything, but you give everything to your players and you may overwhelm them. Maybe the players get the trimmed down specifics of what's important to each position group. So that's one idea when creating multiple scouting reports. All right, we don't have any questions at this point. I'm going to hit stop on the recording,